Welcome everyone to the Friends of White Flint online community meeting. My name is Amy Ginsberg and I'm the Executive Director of Friends of White Flint. We have a couple of rules for tonight because we have a large crowd. First of all, please keep yourself muted so we can hear the speakers and not your dog barking. And because we want to have your questions tonight, but it's a large crowd, we're asking you to put your questions in the chat. And then we can ask the questions to our speakers. I hope we'll get to all of them, but if we can't, because I want to respect everyone's time, I apologize in advance. So Friends of White Flint, for those of you who don't know, is a nonprofit composed of businesses, property owners, and residents, all working together to transform the White Flint Pike District area into a walkable, transit-oriented, vibrant neighborhood. It's all based on the 2010 White Flint Sector Plan. One of our most important tasks is keeping the community informed about everything that's going on in the Pike District White Flint area. And there is always a lot going on. We have a blog that we post 4 times daily, and I hope you'll visit it at whiteflint.org. We also have a weekly e-newsletter that comes out Thursday mornings, and you can sign up at whiteflint.org. And we're also on Facebook and Twitter. Later on in this meeting, MCDOT will update us on the Western Workaround, which is the construction project that's helping to realign Executive Boulevard and create a grid of streets by the Conference Center and Pike and Rose. But first, let's talk about property taxes. So this election ballot has 4 questions, 2 on tax policies and 2 on the structure of the council. Tonight, we're only focusing on the property tax questions, but I ask you to do your homework and learn about the the council structure questions because it could change how we're governed. So there's 2 questions about property taxes, question A and question B. Question B was placed on the ballot through a petition led by Robin Ficker, and the council put question A on the ballot. We're lucky enough tonight to have Robin Ficker and Councilmember Andrew Friedson, who will each take 5 minutes to let us know why you should vote for their proposal and what it will do for our county. So right now, the current system is the county's tax revenue is derived from several types of property taxes. There's a cap that's pegged to inflation. And this is the formula the county has used for the past 30 years to calculate property taxes. Currently, the council is only allowed to increase its revenue by a percentage equal to the consumer price index in the DC metro area. The cap was 1.27% for the current fiscal year, and next fiscal year is projected to be 0.6%. This cap can only be overridden by a unanimous vote from the council. All 9 council members have to vote yes to override. And the last time they did that was 2016. I'm now going to read each question to you, and then we'll let Mr. Ficker and Councilmember Friedson explain what these questions really mean, how they'll affect the county's ability to provide services, and what it means for your pocketbook. Question A. Amend the county charter to prohibit the county council from adopting a tax rate on real property that exceeds the tax rate on property approved for the previous year unless all current council members vote affirmatively for the increase. So basically under question A, the actual property tax rate would be limited to the previous year's rate unless all 9 members of the county council vote to increase it. Question B. Amend the county charter to prohibit the county council from levying a tax on property that would produce total revenue that exceeds the total revenue produced by the tax on real property in the preceding fiscal year, plus a percentage of the previous year's property tax revenues that equals any increase in the consumer price index. Basically, question B sticks with the current system for capping property tax, that makes it impossible for the county council to improve any increases above the rate of inflation. That was a lot of words and a lot of legal jargon, And I'm very glad that we have Robin Ficker and Andrew Friedson here to explain it all to us. I flipped a coin and Robin won. So Robin Ficker will get to go first. Robin, if you could take 5 minutes and tell us all about why we should vote for question B. But before you do that, please everyone remember to use mute and to ask your questions in the chat. Robin, the floor is yours. Robin?
It appears Robin has dropped off the call.
Okay, well, we are going to be flexible and we're going to switch it around, I guess. And Councilmember Friedson, I guess you get to go first this time.
Okay, thank you. I'm always happy to talk about the tax questions and happy to do it in any order you see fit. Thank you, Amy and Mickey and everybody else involved in setting up this event. Thanks for everybody joining. It looks like we have a great crowd this evening. If you're confused by what Amy just described in question B of how the system is set up and how it's calculated, I don't blame you. We have a very convoluted and confusing formula to set our property taxes every year. There's no need for that. We can have a better system. That's what question A does. It takes the current system that we have, which very few people understand. You need a PhD in economic theory to figure out. There's still debates and arguments of what should and shouldn't be included, what should and shouldn't be exempted. And it replaces it with a much more standard system where we base our property tax rates every year in a consistent way based on a rate as opposed to the revenue. Why does that matter? Well, by the rate being the same every year, not only is it more consistent, it is more straightforward, but it also allows us to generate the benefits of a growing economy and rising property values. It puts everybody in the same boat. It allows us to generate tens of millions of dollars in revenue over time without even needing to raise taxes in order to fund schools and libraries and parks. It is much more like almost every other system in almost every other jurisdiction in the country. It's the answer to the broken tax system that we have today that you heard Amy describe a few minutes earlier. Question B, on the other hand, doubles down on our broken tax policy. It is bad, it's broken, and it's backwards. It turns a bad policy into a potentially catastrophic one by eliminating any ability to meet our school transportation needs or respond to a crisis like the one we're in right now in COVID-19. It would directly threaten our AAA bond rating, which we need to fund schools, libraries, transportation projects, and rec centers. And we'll get to that in a moment, but there are many issues that Friends of White Flint cares deeply about, many projects that I've worked directly on that would be specifically impacted by our losing our AAA bond rating. In short, it's about fiscal responsibility, which question A represents, versus fiscal insanity, which is what question B represents. It's about betting on Montgomery County, betting on our growth, betting on our residents and our businesses to raise the property values in our county versus betting against Montgomery County. Mickey, if you could switch to the next slide, please. I just wanted to bring this slide up to explain how perverse and bizarre our current system is. So if you look at this slide, it shows the tax rates, the county property tax rates from 2001 to 2021, the current year that we're in, a 20-year period. If you look through, you'll hear Mr. Ficker probably tonight, as I've heard him repeatedly say, talk a lot about the property tax increase that the previous council voted on in 2016. The only time in history, actually, where 9 members of the county council unanimously voted to override the cap. Our tax rate today is already lower than the tax rate that they raised that from. Already lower than the tax rate that they raised it from 4 years ago. It just shows how bizarre it is. If you go back prior to that, the only other time in this period where 7 members of the county council, before it was raised from 7 to 9, required in order to override the existing cap, it was in fiscal year 2009, that increase that was voted on by 7 members of the county council, they voted to exceed a cap just to keep the property tax rate stable, just to keep it consistent year over year. When you start with a property tax system that is based on revenue that the county can collect, as opposed to the rates that residents pay, it's like playing Jeopardy, where you start with the answer and you back into the question. That is not a rational, reasonable, or normal way to do tax policy. It is fine for a game show, but it's not good for Montgomery County. It is not good for serious tax policy, and is not a way that we build the type of infrastructure that we need, provide the type of quality of life that we've come to expect and that we rely on, and have the place in Montgomery County that we've always benefited from, and that we want to continue to build to attract new residents, new businesses, and new investment from. We go to the next slide, Mickey. There's a reason why this isn't just progressive organizations that support this rational policy. Every single Democratic club, every single Democratic elected official in Montgomery County, it also has the support of the last Republican to serve on the county council, Howie Dennis. Many business groups, including the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Bethesda Chamber, the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors, not to mention our teachers, our service employees, and a laundry list of others as part of a broad-based bipartisan coalition that are for A and against B. It matters directly for the Pike District and for all of the infrastructure projects that Friends of White Flint has been the leading advocate for. Question B would threaten our AAA bond rating, which would dramatically increase borrowing costs and drive up the cost of schools, transportation, and other projects. We've held that AAA bond rating since 1973. We're the longest jurisdiction in the United States of America to hold on to that coveted AAA bond rating. And what does that mean in real terms? $27 million out of the capital budget, gone for nothing. We get nothing out of it. And what does that mean? Well, the second White Flint Metro entrance that we worked on, that was 11.6 million that we've programmed into the capital budget. We wouldn't be able to do that or anywhere close. The Western Workaround you're going to talk about later, that's programmed at $52.8 million. That's more than half of that project gone. And bus rapid transit, we will have no chance to do the type of bus rapid transit system that we want for 355 to create the boulevard that we've all talked about, that we've all bought in on, and that we know we need in Montgomery County, and a host of other projects. This is just one community's infrastructure projects. Multiply that by every single community in Montgomery County, and you get a sense for the reason why question B would be so bad and why question A is so important as the answer to the broken property tax system that we have. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Is Robin Ficker, are you back on the call yet?
I do not believe he is.
Okay. Well, Andrew, I guess I will ask you one of the questions that has come through on the chat, and hopefully Robin will get his technology worked out. So the question is, what happens when the economy goes down? What rate is used then? And does it go lower than the inflation rate?
The answer is yes, it would. It ties all of our interests together, businesses, residents, and the county the way it should be. The perverse nature of our current system is the only time taxes can be raised under the bizarre revenue cap that we have is at the time when businesses and residents can least afford it in Montgomery County. And the revenues would be capped at the previous year like they have been for the last 30 years. And what does that mean? That means that your property taxes will go up in the worst possible moments that they can. And we've seen that in different times. I will also say when this system went into place, property taxes for the immediate term went up before gradually going down. And so the bizarre nature of this is when times are good, when we should be generating more revenue, the county sees less of it, does not get the full benefit of a growing economy and rising property values. And when residents are struggling the most, when businesses are having the toughest time in our county, that's when the county is able to raise property taxes on them. This council stepped up and held the line on property taxes this past year because we were in a global pandemic. Our system is not set up to do that. It will provide no protections in the worst possible of time. All it does is hurt in good times and hurt in bad times as well.
Thank you, Councilmember. Let's try again. Is Robin, are you on the call? Robin? All right, we'll ask you another question, Councilmember. So without a revenue cap, will homeowners be priced out due to
Hello.
values? Oh, Robin, welcome. Andrew we'll take that question in a minute. Robin, we're glad
Yes.
you're here, and the floor is yours to explain question B.
Okay, question B. Well, I want to welcome and say hello to all the wonderful people at the White Flint Civic Association. In 2019, we attended all 10 of the concerts given at Strathmore, and we collect signatures there starting about an hour and a half before the show. Only one was rained out. And then also collected lots of signatures for question B at the Montrose Giant. And I remember being there on July 4th of 2019 from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. We, I'm sure, got over 1,000 signatures at the concerts and at the Giant from the White Flint area, because people there want to limit property tax increases to the rate of inflation. In 2016, we had a 9% increase in the property taxes in Montgomery County. That shoved a lot of housing into the unaffordable category. It kept minorities stuffed in apartments, and it upped rents through pass-through property tax increases. A 9% property tax increase was catastrophic to the people of Montgomery County, and we never want it to happen again. That's why we put question B on the ballot, and I hope you vote for that, because the council has really spent itself into a very large deficit. And Mr. Elric, who in 2016, when he said that he wanted to vote for the 9% increase, was quoted in the Post as saying, "Civilizations are never remembered for their tax rates." So he's the genesis of question A, which allows the council to increase the tax rates. Now, we've had a definition in the charter limiting the growth of property tax revenue to the rate of inflation for 30 years. Now, my friend Andrew here wants to change that. He wants to change it so that we can instead increase instead the limit is increasing the assessment. Well, if that had been true, if question A had been in effect from 2003 to 2017, the assessments went up 129%, whereas the inflation rate went up only 41%. So question A is a huge backdoor tax increase that would have allowed 3 times the increase in property taxes that the existing limit would have allowed. So vote against question A. It's a huge backdoor tax increase put on by Mr. Elric and his minions on the council who want to carry his water. He wants to increase tax rates because civilizations are never remembered by their tax rates. Vote for question B. Question B cuts nothing. It simply limits increases in property tax revenue to the rate of inflation. It does not affect the schools, because in 2012, the legislature passed a law which says that the increase in school revenue cannot be limited by the county charters. So question B does not limit the schools at all. And Mr. Leggett, tax hike Ike, recently said, well, schools are impacted. Nonsense. They're not impacted at all. Now, We have 130,000 people in Montgomery County who have filed for unemployment. We're hurting. You don't tax yourself out of a pandemic. Not one county employee or school employee, for that matter, has been furloughed. The people of Montgomery County have been bearing the brunt. Shut down, tax increase politics is not what we want in Montgomery County. Vote for B and vote for that big tax hike, question A. Vote against the big tax hike, question A. Protect your pocketbook. We're trying to work our way out of this pandemic. The council needs to cut spending. There's no inclination whatsoever. When they passed that 9% property tax increase in 2016, it was done unanimously and without debate. It's all go along, get along on the county council. Mr. Elrick tried to get a big tax increase through this year. Luckily, the council thwarted him. They won't thwart him next year because they have this huge deficit. And what else is question A doing? Question A is also sending the word out to other legislators around the state that people in Montgomery County don't mind increasing their taxes. So legislators elsewhere are going to be cutting down Montgomery's share of state taxes, of state tax revenue, because they'll say, we don't need to give you more state revenue because you're willing to increase your own taxes. So it compounds itself. Question A is a double whammy. It changes the definition we've had for 30 years to allow much larger automatic tax increases, and it allows the council to increase taxes as much as they want. Vote against A, vote for B to limit your taxes to the rate of inflation. Protect your home.
Thanks, Robin. I'm going to now, I'll ask a question, and Andrew, if you would answer it first, and then Robin, if you'll answer it.
Okay.
So without the revenue cap, will homeowners be priced out due to rising property prices?
So the question, I believe, you cut out for a second, but will homeowners see higher property taxes? Is that what was the question? The answer is no. Your property tax rate will remain the same every year unless 9 members of the county council vote unanimously to change it. That is the system in almost every other jurisdiction in the entire United States of America. Mr. Ficker raised the point earlier about what other jurisdictions would do. If we were following what other jurisdictions would do, we would do exactly what question A does, except we have the added protection of 9 members of the county council unanimously being required in order to increase taxes. That is a protection that almost no other jurisdiction in the country, no other jurisdiction in the state has. Mr. Ficker pushed hard for that one. Credit to you for that. It barely passed when it was pushed through. That protection remains, and we just have a more rational, more reasonable tax policy. A couple points to Mr. Ficker's comments earlier, just to clarify the facts. Anybody who believes that I am a minion of the county executive does not spend a whole lot of time following or watching what is happening in county government on the county council. I appreciate the fact of saying, thankfully, the county council stepped up to push back against property tax increases. I helped lead that fight and lead that effort. And to clarify as well, question A was not written by Mr. Elrich, as Mr. Ficker has repeatedly tried to say. I wrote question A. The same person who fought against and has consistently fought against property tax increases at the county council put this forward. I've spent my career in fiscal and economic policy. I have spent the 2 years on the council focusing on holding property tax rates and the property taxes as they are. But if we want to be able to say what we always say, which is we want to grow a tax base so we don't grow the tax rates, then we need question A. We've got to defeat question B. And the last point that I will make, the outlandish comment that Mr. Ficker insists on saying, which just shows a fundamental misunderstanding about how the economy works and how tax assessments work. The assessments that he's referring to are not individual property assessments. That is not your house versus another house. That is all property tax assessments around the county. That's what increased the level that he's talking about. And yes, that is good that assessments have grown. That means that we have new development. That means we have new added economic activity. And we need to get the full benefit of that growth to support the infrastructure that we need to support further growth. And the only way to do that is to eliminate the revenue cap, support question A, create a rational, reasonable tax policy, and defeat the broken and bad idea to double down on a backwards tax policy that Mr. Ficker is trying so hard to push down our throats.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mr. Ficker, would you like to also answer that question, which is how will this affect individual property tax owners? Without the revenue cap, will homeowners be priced out due to rising property taxes?
Well, of course, you know, Andrew has put a question on along with two other people in his committee who voted for the 9% tax increase. His committee wrote this question together. They want more money. And they want more money during a pandemic when our incomes are way down, when we've closed hundreds of restaurants in Montgomery County, when 130,000 people have filed for unemployment. We don't want the county to be taking more revenue than the rate of inflation allows. He talks about, well, we're limiting tax rates. He knows that for this 14-year period from 2003 to 2017, assessments increased 129%, but the inflation rate went up only 41%. So he knows that they would be getting, if question A had been in effect since 2003, automatically 3 times as much revenue increase as we have had under the existing charter. He wants a lot more money to throw around. Now, you know, I don't remember him testifying against this 9% increase in 2016. I don't remember him being for term limits before term limits passed. The only people that are opposing question B are the same people who oppose term limits. The people who were for question A are the people who oppose term limits. So, you know, that group has been discredited. 70% supported term limits, and those are the people who are voting for question B. Now, I might add that we checked every single signature on question B's petition. 60% of those people were registered Democrats. 60%. It went across racial lines. It went across neighborhood lines. It went across income lines. People know that their rents are going up if question A passes because assessments are rising 3 times the rate of inflation here in Montgomery County. So come on, Andy, we don't need a big tax increase during this recession. I know that in the past you've touted yourself as being a careful spender, but this is going to automatically bring you a lot more revenue, 3 times the revenue that the present charter limit would have allowed. This charter limit's been in existence for 30 years. It's not irrational. It works well. And we've tried to keep property taxes down in Montgomery County. It's just that the incumbent party now realizes they have no competition whatsoever. They don't have to worry about getting 9 votes. They can get 9 votes to do anything. And no one who's running in that party primary is going to say, we want to limit property taxes. They all have ideas to spend a lot more of your money. Now, if these were really good times, I wouldn't be worried so much, but it's terrible times. Everyone is hurting. Everyone's family budget is being stretched. Why in the world would we want to increase taxes and give the council authority to increase taxes as much as they want? Because we have some pretty big spenders on that council, and Andy's one of the group. Those are his friends there. He goes along to get along.
Thank you, Robin. A question that we have, Andrew, if you would answer it first, is what groups in the county are supporting which ballot question.
Thanks for the question. So Mr. Ficker talked about all the groups being discredited. So let me just give you a few. This is not a comprehensive list, but we've got the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Bethesda Chamber of Commerce, the teachers, the service employees, the Sierra Club, the Montgomery County Coalition of PTAs, Montgomery County Women, every Democratic group and every Democratic club, every Democratic current elected official, the last Republican to serve on the county council, Howie Dennis, some of the most respected business leaders in the county, like David Blair and others. That's what you got on one side. The other side, you've got Robin Ficker standing virtually alone. And so I don't want to get into a public discussion on which of those groups has been repeatedly discredited, but I'll let it speak for itself. Just a couple quick points to what Mr. Ficker said. I explained the how assessments work earlier. I hope everybody understands that better than Mr. Ficker clearly does. He keeps rattling off the same talking points, but it doesn't change the facts that the assessments are not an individual property. They are all properties. We want the assessments to grow. If the assessments don't grow faster than inflation, that means that our economy is shrinking. That means that people are moving away. That means that businesses are going away. That is the opposite of what we want. That is what Robin Ficker is rooting for. That is what his policy is banking on and predicated on. And that's what he wants us to continue. He wants a county of no growth that only supports the people who always live here, and will slowly be a race to the bottom with declining services and declining quality of life. That is what he is talking about. He is talking about the assessments going at the same exact rate as inflation, and by not understanding what the assessable base is in the county, clearly he either doesn't believe in Montgomery County and doesn't want to bet on Montgomery County, or has a fundamental misunderstanding of how property tax assessments work. The last thing that I will say is this. What Robin Ficker will not say, what he is not telling you, is when he repeatedly talks about that 8.7% property tax increase based on this ridiculous tax policy that we currently have, his property taxes, not just his tax rates, his property taxes, the literal dollars that Mr. Ficker pays today, are lower than what they were when property taxes were raised, are lower. So that just tells you exactly what you need to know about this system, and the reason why it doesn't work, the reason why we ought to change it, and the reason why you should be for A and against B.
Thank you. Robin, would you like to talk about the groups that are supporting question B? And you're muted, so be sure to unmute yourself. Robin?
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Good. Okay. All right. Look, we had 15,620 people sign our petition. Do you realize, and Andrew says, well, all the elected Democrats are opposed to question B. Guess what? All the elected officials, all the elected Democratic officials were opposed to term limits too. That got 70% of the vote. The Democratic precinct chairman voted 89-2 to oppose term limits. It got 70% of the vote. David Blair was opposed to term limits. All the Chamber of Commerce was opposed to term limits. The Bethesda Chevy Chase Chamber of Commerce, of all of these groups, opposed to term limits. It got 70% because they're all looking for handouts from the council. They're looking for preferred treatment. 15,620. So what did the council do? After our question was certified for the ballot, they decided to put on the ballot ahead of, i.e. question A, ahead of question B, to try to confuse the voters. If question A was such a good idea, why didn't they put it on the ballot before we turned in the petition for question B? Why did, if it's been such a bad idea for 30 years to have our present limit, why wasn't it put on 4 years ago, 10 years ago? They only put it on as a reaction to question B, and they're trying to confuse the voters by putting it before question B. The fact is, here's what 7 states said. A's approach would have yielded much more property tax revenue than the present charter limit. Much more, i.e., big tax increase. Andrew is in favor of big tax increases, much more tax revenue to throw around. What they need to do, and keep in mind that there's a new construction exception to the present limit. So if they bring in some new construction, like Marriott is reconstructing its headquarters in downtown Bethesda, that's new construction. It's exempted. What they need to do is work with the companies that are here. The Discovery Channel, the biggest employer in the neighborhood of the Tacoma Park Trapezoid, where the executive and 5 of the council members live, left town because they didn't take care of their company. Amazon, why do you think Amazon left, didn't locate in Montgomery County? They saw who was elected and they said, we got a group of tax increase specialists. I talked to Amazon out in Seattle. The reason they wanted to put their second headquarters out of Seattle was that Seattle imposed a big per head employee tax. They don't want to locate in a tax increase neighborhood, which Montgomery County is, and which Andrew personifies, and certainly Mr. Elric does, and a majority of the council personifies tax increase politics. We need to control our spending. We need to live within the rate of inflation. You know, when we got that 9% increase.
You just, Robin, 10 more seconds to finish the question.
Okay, when we got that 9% increase, Social Security recipients got no increase whatsoever. And the Washington Post said that the 9% increase was an exercise in budgetary restraint, as Andrew thinks it was. No, it wasn't.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I will give you each seriously just 1 minute, really 1 minute, I'm timing it, to make your summary. And Andrew went first before, so Robin, you'll go first this time. So seriously, 1 minute of your summary of why someone should vote for question B.
Well, because the average person in Montgomery County doesn't want a property tax revenue increase more than the rate of inflation. They don't want the county getting, as 7 states said, much more property tax revenue every year. We're hurting here. We've got 130,000 people filed for unemployment. The schools are shut down. Parents are having to stay home because the kids can't go to school. So, you know, shut down, tax increase politics doesn't work. We spent $56 million to put a tunnel under Wisconsin Avenue in Bethesda. They're not watching, they're not thrifty. It doesn't impact the schools. The schools can go around the limit because of the state law that was passed in 2012. If you want to protect your pocketbook and not be used as an ATM, don't listen to Andrew. Vote against question A, vote for question B. Question A is a double whammy tax increase that allows the council. Do you really trust the council?
Thank you,
they
Robin.
They can increase taxes as much as they want under A.
Thank you very much. And Councilmember Friedson, a minute for you.
Thank you. Well, facts don't seem to exist simply because Mr. Ficker chooses to ignore them. And there is clearly a fundamental misunderstanding of the tax policy that he is pushing, that he helped to create, or he just simply is campaigning on bumper stickers and not on real tax policy. He mentioned Marriott. The county will see virtually no benefit from some of the Marriott construction because of the way that the current system is set up. The property taxes, because they're not collected in the first year through some of the property tax abatement, the county will not is not allowed to count that against the cap that we currently have. That's how convoluted and ridiculous this current system is. Marriott, of course, is a huge benefit to the county, but the way that our system is set up, it is a disincentive for the type of incentives that Marriott represents and that we should be doing more of. So it's a good example that he used for why the policy is so bad. The state law that he mentioned, it was put into place because of how terrible the Prince George's County trim policy was and has been since the 1970s. Question B is basically trim on steroids. It's worse. And there had to be a state law to override how absurdly ridiculous that policy is. There are so many more reasons why question A is fiscal responsibility, question B is fiscal insanity, but I have great respect for Amy, great respect for Friends of White Flint, and I look forward to you getting an update on the Western workaround, which, by the way, would not be possible if question B passes, nor any of the other infrastructure projects that you want. I hope you will vote for A, against B. Tell all your friends the fate and future of the Pike District and our ability to realize the full potential of the master plan and the fate and future of our county depends on it. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. So I want to thank everyone for the questions. They were wonderful. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them. But now we get to turn to a whole other subject, and that's construction. When the reason you are seeing all that construction on Old Georgetown Road and why Executive Boulevard is closed and why this is so critical to the future of the Pike District. So now I'd like to ask Marcello Cortez from MCDOT to talk about the Western workaround.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Amy, Mickey, thank you so much for having us here. My name is Marcelo Cortez. I'm with Montgomery County Department of Transportation, and I am responsible for implementing this project. Also with us tonight is my colleague, Dan Sheridan. He is the Chief of Planning and Design, also for the Department of Transportation. He'll be helping me to answer some of your questions. I am sharing my screen right now. Hopefully you can see it. Yes,
Yep.
Yeah, great. I would like to direct you to our website, which is a great resource we put together. It's a dedicated project website. The address is Montgomery County, www.montgomerycountymd.gov/White Flint. And you will find here some resources. You will find our schedule, and you can also sign up here for with your email to get newsletters. We release newsletters every month. We, with a summary of the status of the project and with the ongoing construction activities. Also in our website, you will find here some renderings, and I just wanted to go quickly over those, as they represent the scope that we are trying to implement here. This is a picture of the existing Old Georgetown Road looking west. In the future configuration, you will see we're going to rebuild the median. We're going to have bike lanes, and we're going to have a sidewalk and a cycle track. If we're looking at the next picture, it's Old Georgetown looking north. You can see Pike and Rose here. The future condition will look very different. You will see the connection, the through connection through the intersection with Executive going into Town Road. We're also going to rebuild the median here. We're going to have bike lanes and sidewalks on both sides and a shared use path also going all the way to the intersection. If we look at another one of those existing conditions, this is Town Road looking south. This will be the corner where Pike and Rose is. This is the cul-de-sac right now. And the future condition will be very different. We're going to install a new median, and we will have bike lanes on both sides and sidewalks as well. Now the next picture shows Executive Boulevard. This is looking east. The future condition is going to be very different. It's going to go straight essentially and tied into Old Georgetown here at the intersection. It's going to feature sidewalks and bike paths on both sides as well. Moving on to the status of the project. Let me see if I can pull up our satellite view. This is the realignment that Amy mentioned earlier. We are going to be connecting Town Road and Old Georgetown and create a grid-like connection and eliminate the curb here that connects Old Georgetown past Executive into 355. So it's going to be a grid-like alignment here. So Town Road will be connected all the way, and it's going to go through Georgetown. Executive Boulevard will intersect here at Old Georgetown. We're going to connect Grand Park Avenue. We're going to connect this missing piece right now. It's under construction. And all the way past Marinelli is going to take you into Nicholson. And then we're also going to continue the construction of Banneker Avenue, which is partially constructed now. And right now the alignment goes to the Gables property, which is now part of the project. So if I zoom in a little bit, I can provide a little bit more detail of where we are right now. The project is scheduled to be completed around November 2022. We are about 30% complete. Some of the biggest advances we made lately is demolition of the former Nissan dealership is complete. So the building is gone, and we are installing right now storm drain and storm water management facilities. And we are in the process of fine grading the roadway and hoping to install pavement in about 3 or 4 weeks. This portion of the road of the project was scheduled to be completed in spring 2021, but we are trying to advance that work and create the connection from this intersection with Old Georgetown all the way to Marinelli by the end of this year. So we're moving very aggressively to get that portion complete here, this missing piece that goes to the former VOB property. And we still have some remaining work to do here in the intersection with Marinelli and in front of the conference center. All that work is ongoing right now. We have some storm drain and stormwater management facilities to install, and hoping again that we can continue that and be done by the end of the year. That will really help us with managing traffic through this busy intersection. We permanently closed Executive Boulevard sometime in July this year. So, and we also established detour plans. So, hoping that people will pay attention to that. It's been taking a while, but I think most drivers are getting used to the new configuration now. Executive Boulevard will not be reopened again the way it exists. So, we are starting working on Banneker Avenue. We're starting to lay out some of the groundwork for installing the utilities. This project really is a big utility relocation job. All the utilities that you can imagine, we have them here and we are relocating them. We have Verizon, we have Petco, we have Washington Gas, WSFC, and multiple cable companies that go through this intersection. Right now, the Verizon infrastructure is complete, and Washington Gas is also complete. We have Verizon crews right now doing the relocation of their cables, and there's a lot of splicing going on, and they have the longest schedule. They have a lot of work to do. Splicing those cables takes a lot of time, so we're really hoping that our friends at Verizon are going to help us there advance the project. Well, regarding Pepco, we're doing a lot better. The plan for the project is to relocate or to eliminate rather the poles on the east side of Old Georgetown, on the east side of Town Road, and on the south side of Old Georgetown here. And we go into underground these facilities. The poles on the west side of Old Georgetown and Town Road will remain, and they are expected to carry only to So we will be underground in most of the cables and the fiber cables that go to this area of the project. So we are doing a very good progress with Pepco right now. Our crews are way ahead of schedule, and we were scheduled to finish the infrastructure work sometime summer, early fall next year. But we're hopeful that's going to be sometime early spring because we're moving at an incredible fast pace. So really lucky about that. We're started working in front of the Guardian property. One of the biggest challenges that we have is we have to install our main storm drain trunk. There's a huge pipes are going to be connected here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. We're going to be connecting here at the Guardian property and then come out into Old Georgetown, and then we're going to connect or install all these pipes and structures, and all the way to the intersection here. The proposed intersection right now is that's the grassy knoll, as we call it. That's the green area in front of Pike and Rose, and it's going to bifurcate left and right to gather all the storm, all the water that's coming from east and west of the project. So all in all, I think we're doing great. We're very happy with the progress. Our general contractor is very responsive. We have monthly meetings where we brief the stakeholders in the project, and if you would like it, we can open the floor to questions.
Great, thank you. So one question that was asked was, what is the completion date of all of this work?
November 2022.
Excellent. And actually, that was the only question we got. So if you have another question, type quickly. All right, we're good. Thank you, Marcella. That was really helpful.
It's my lucky night.
It is. And I want to thank Federal Realty and Mickey Papillon, who was our tech support and generously let us use their Zoom technology. Thank you again to Robin Ficker and Councilmember Friedson for illuminating us. I thought it was really interesting and educational. And thanks to all of you for being a part of our community meeting, our online community meeting. I look forward to the time when we can be back in person. Until then, don't forget to follow our blog on whiteflint.org. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And thanks again for coming tonight.